Good morning, everyone. So, today we will discuss Herbert Marcuse's text One Dimensional Man, and it is considered to be one of the most important books in 1960s, which was an attempt to understand the social, political, and economic transformations after the World Wars and the establishment of a new mode of capitalist economy. The text was first published in 1964 and it was immediately recognized as a significant contribution to kind of critical diagnosis of present society, and it was also later on affiliated and adopted by new left of that time as a damning critique of the western societies and capitalist societies. The book reflects the stifling conformity of the era, and it provides a powerful critique of the new modes of domination and social control which have emerged in the wake of the modern capitalist societies. And it's not merely the depiction of the way mechanisms of power work, but it also expresses and hopes uh, the, the radical critique and the Marxist philosophy and a new mode which the Frankfurt School represents uh, would further contribute and expand the scope of human freedom and happiness, and we would be able to go beyond the one dimensional thought. Uh, Marcuse continues to work with this notion of liberation, which was articulated in his text, earlier book called Eros and Civilization, 1955. And he, in this work, continues to provide a systematic dialectical analysis of the existing forms of domination and oppression. And this text is, as Marcuse himself wrote in the initial edition of the book. Marcuse writes, "This book deals with the certain basic tendencies in contemporary industrial society, which seem to indicate a new phase of civilization. These tendencies have engendered a mode of thought and behavior which undermines the very foundations of the traditional culture. The chief characteristic of this new mode of thought and behavior is the repression of all values, aspirations, and ideas which cannot be defined in terms of the operations and attitudes validated by the prevailing forms of rationality. The consequence is the weakening and even the disappearance of all genuinely radical critique and the integration of all position in the established system." So, in that sense, this text contains a theory of advanced industrial society, and it describes how changes in production, consumption, and culture has produced an advanced state of conformity in the modern society. And there is a mode of kind of control through which production of needs and aspirations by the existing apparatus integrates individual into the establishment, and that's what leads Marcuse to describe the process and trend as that formation of technological society, in which the technology restructures the labor, the leisure, influencing life from the organization of labor to the modes of thought. And he also highlights the mechanism through which the consumer capitalist world integrates individual into its fold. And rather than seeing these developments as beneficial to the individual, Marcuse sees them as a threat to human freedom and individuality in a totally administered society. So, justifying these claims, Marcuse uh, draws upon a philosophical critique based on Hegelian Marxist concept of philosophy and put forwards a critique of dominant philosophical and intellectual currents. He engages with positivism, analytical philosophy, technological rationality, and various modes of thought of conformist thinking in his times. And in this text, he both explicates the concept of dialectical philosophy and produces analysis of society and culture, which exemplify his dialectical categories and method. In that sense, one dimensional man presents a model of Marcuse's critical social theory and of his critical philosophy. During 1920s and 1930s, when Marcuse studied with Martin Heidegger in Freiburg, Germany, and he was intensely engaged in reading the works of Hegel, Marx, phenomenology, existentialism, German idealism, classical writings of the Western philosophical traditions. And in this attempt, he uh, tried to deal with the concrete problems of the existing individual and was impressed with the phenomenological method of Husserl. And then he later on tried to synthesize this phenomenological existentialism with Marxism and Hegelianism. And he develops a conception of a technological world and sees technological rationality colonizing everyday life. Now, this thought later on became very popular and was developed further by Jürgen Habermas, what he calls colonization of the life world and re-feudalization of the life world. So Marcuse thought that dialectical philosophy could promote critical thinking, and one-dimensional man is perhaps his most important attempt to present the categories that he receives from dialectical philosophies of Hegel and Marx. For Marcuse, dialectical thinking involved the ability to abstract one's perception and thought from existing forms in order to form more general concepts. Uncritical thinking rather derives its beliefs and norms and values from existing thought and social practices, while critical thought seeks alternative modes of thought. And such a critical standpoint requires what Marcuse labeled as negative thinking or dialectical thinking, critical thinking. Now, this thinking negates existing forms of thought and reality from the perspective of higher possibilities of human freedom. And this practice presupposes the ability to make a distinction between existence and essence, fact and potentiality, appearance and reality. After public support by Heidegger to National Socialism and the Nazi Party, Marcuse had a difficult task to examine the existing situations. And later on, with his association with the Institute of Social Research, he provided a scathing critique of fascist ideology. And he turned away from Heidegger's positions and he started critiquing it. The concern with critical thinking and dialectical thinking is not new in Marcuse's thought. If we look back in his early writings called Reason and Revolution, there is a similar thought process and current which goes in that reading. And he traces the rise of modern social theory through Hegel, Marx, positivism, and phenomenology. For Marcuse, one-dimensional thought and action derive their standards and criterion from the existing society, and they try to avoid transcendent standpoints. Critical thinking and dialectical thinking postulates norms of criticism based on rational potentials for human happiness and freedom, and which are used to negate existing state of affairs. In that sense, dialectical thought posits another realm of ideas, images, imaginations that serves as a potential guide for social transformation that would realize the unrealized potentialities for a better life. Similar approaches were also kind of followed by other contributors and founding members of Frankfurt School, such as Max Horkheimer, Adorno, Karl Korsch, and others as well. In this text, particularly one dimensional thought, uh, Marcuse analyzes and works on Hegelian Marxist dialectical philosophy, and he's trying to understand the new configurations of social order, and to understand the key roles of mass culture, telecommunications, to analyze new modes of technology which give rise to new forms of control, and how there is a systematic decline of the individual in the mass, in becoming of a mass society. Simultaneously, he also had some Marxist objectives in mind to analyze and confront the process through which the integration of working class into the masses. Right? So the disintegration of working class as a key political radical agency and category. Uh, the development of modern industry and technological rationality, according to Marcuse, undermined the basis of individual rationality. As capitalism and technology developed, advanced industrial society demanded increasing accommodation to the economic and social apparatus and submission to increasing domination and administration. And he was working already with different scholars to understand this one dimensionality of the social change. Uh, he tried to combine and integrate philosophy, social theory, politics, and so on. And he writes this very interesting paragraph in this text, which is found by scholars in Marcuse archive, titled as A History of the Doctrine of Social Change. And the paragraph is very interesting. He says, since sociology as an independent science was not established before the 19th century, the theory of society up to that time was an integral part of philosophy or of those sciences such as economic or just juristic, the conceptual structure of which was to a large extent based upon specific philosophical doctrines. This intrinsic connection between philosophy and the theory of society formulates the pattern of all particular theories of social change occurring in the ancient world, in the Middle Ages, and with the coming of modern times. One decisive result is the emphasis on the fact that social change cannot be interpreted within a particular social science, but must be understood within the social and natural totality of human life. This conception uses to a large extent psychological factors in the theory of social change. However, the derivation of a social and political concepts from the psyche of man is not a psychological method in the modern sense, but rather involves a negation of psychology as a specific science. For the Greeks, psychological concepts were essentially ethical, social and political ones, to be integrated into the ultimate science of philosophy. Now, you can find that there is a very strong tendency to not separate these disciplines and rather to integrate all these different modes of thought and traditions to come up with a total understanding of the social life. Uh, this text, particularly by Marcuse, uh, tries to engage with the multidimensional understandings of the forms of authority which are emerging in the wake of industrial change, and there were existing group of scholars on whose writings Marcuse draws upon. For example, the very important writings by C. Wright Mills, Daniel Bell, Vance Packard, and who were trying to map the contemporary changes in the Western advanced national societies. And he engages with European theories as well, of the French theories of technological societies, the theories of working class, the what are the processes in the then communist societies, and he provides a total critique of advanced industrial societies. Now, coming to the text, Marcuse begins with one very important basic idea, that commodities and consumption play a far greater role in modern societies than what is envisaged by Marx and other Marxists. And for him, commodities and consumption also shape uh, individual identity and ideology and cultural life. And he wanted to understand the consumer society through advertising, mass culture, and ideology. And he says that how certain needs are produced and through which individuals are submerged into a body of thought, behavior, and certain expectations. And that's where he brings in the category of true and false needs. And he says that individuals are increasingly controlled by their obsession, their in the kind of their dependence upon false needs, and they can only liberate themselves by coming out of these false needs and recognize the true needs of the society, through which they can live a freer and happier life. And he actually says that there is a systematic circulation of individualism, and these ideologies are forms, mechanism through which individuals need to liberate themselves. And he says that, for example, economic freedom, we are all systematically bombarded with these new notions of freedoms. For example, economic freedom to sell one's labor power in the market. He says this allows the individual to submit to the slavery of an irrational economic system. Similarly, political freedom to vote for generally indistinguishable representatives of the same system, which is actually a delusive ratification of a non democratic political system. Intellectual freedom of expression is ineffectual when the media either co opt or diffuse or distort, suppress the critical ideas, and when the image makers shape public opinion so that it is hostile or immune to oppositional thought and ideas. And that's why he says the genuine freedom and well being depend upon liberation from the entire system of one dimensional needs and satisfactions and require new modes of realization, which is corresponding to the new capabilities of the society. Now, this is on page number 6 of the text One Dimensional Man. So, the introduction to the first edition of the text begins with a very important and catchy title, which is called The Paralysis of Criticism, Society Without Opposition. And he is trying to understand here what are the ways within which individuals subject to the power of means of production, and they have to submit their critical faculties, and they are trying to not see through the things which are provided as the needs of the system. And he says that this industrial society is becoming increasingly irrational as a whole, and the continuous celebration and appreciation of the productive capacity is actually destructive. It is destructive of the freedom of human development of needs and uh, growth. And the modern society continuously depend upon the repression of the real possibilities. And he says that the society's domination over an individual is greater than ever before, and there are now technological bases as well to control. And he says we need a theory which can investigate the roots of these developments and examine the historical alternatives as part of the critical theory, and to understand how abused capabilities are of human beings, and what can be the standards of such critical understanding. And he says that in the very beginning he focuses his attention on the possibility of a critical theory of a society, and what are the emergent issues, for example historical objectivity. And he says two important points. He says first, the judgment that human life is worth living, or rather can be or ought to be made worth living. Now this judgment underlies all intellectual effort. He says this is the a priori of the social theory, and it's the rejection of the theory itself. Second, he says the judgment that in any given society specific possibilities exist for the transformation of the human life and specific ways and means of realizing these possibilities. Now he says to how do we answer these questions? It would require a systematic organization of thought and hence a critical theory which should abstract from the actual organization and utilization of society's resources, and it should be opposed to all forms of metaphysics. In that sense, he is not suggesting to draw upon the critique on transcendent level. Rather, he is trying to come up to the materialistic ground for developing the social theory. So, we are still trying to understand the initial discussion in the first section of the society, the text by Marcuse. And in the coming discussions, we will go further in details into the individual chapters of the text as well as the overall arguments by Marcuse. And he provides a very comparative account of the societies in the past and the form the industrial society is actually acquiring in 1950s and 60s. So we will continue with the discussion. If you have any questions, you can share, you can note it down, and we'll try to respond to these questions.